There are two kinds of screams you never forget once you hear them. One comes from fear. The other comes from someone who just realised the person they trusted most had sold them to the devil. 3 nights ago, under a cold silver moon, I heard both. I watched my home burn. I smelled blood soaking into the snow like it belonged there. And when I looked at the man standing beside Dracula, I didn't see an enemy. I saw the only person who ever made me feel less alone in this cursed life. He didn't look away. He didn't beg. He only whispered, "I did this to save you." That was the moment I understood something far worse than death. Monsters don't always come from the dark. Sometimes they wait inside the people you love. My name is Alara. In daylight, I could almost pass for human. I smiled at the market. I carried water from the river. I helped children when they fell. But when the full moon rose, my bones would break apart and rebuild themselves into something savage. The wolf inside me would wake up angry and hungry, and I would spend the night trying not to kill the very people I swore to protect. Dracula made me this way 3 winters ago. He came to our village pretending to be a dying nobleman. Pale face, gentle voice, black coat like midnight itself. My father let him in out of kindness. By morning, my father was dead, my mother was empty, and I was only alive because I fought like a cornered animal. The only person who stayed with me afterward was Lucian. He was a quiet healer with steady hands and kind eyes. He knew exactly what I was. He saw the claws. He saw the glowing eyes. Yet he never looked at me with fear. He built a hidden shelter deep in the forest so I could lock myself away during the full moon. He sat outside the door for hours and talked to me when the pain became too much to bear alone. And he wasn't the only one who cared. His younger brother, Marek, helped him too. That's why the betrayal felt like it ripped my heart out while it was still beating. Marek laughed easily. He fixed traps. He carried silver bolts. He swore he would die before letting Dracula touch our land again. He called me sister. He said if the village ever learned the truth about me, he would stand in front of me with a torch and lie until his last breath. I believed him. That was my first mistake. The second mistake came with the dreams. For 7 nights, I woke to scratching sounds coming from under the floorboards, not outside, underneath me. Each time I lit a candle, I found nothing, but the air smelled sweet and rotten, like flowers left too long in a sealed room. Then the whispers started. Ilara. At first it sounded like wind, then like my mother, then like Lucian, then like my own voice. You are tired. You are alone. Open the door. I stopped sleeping. My hands shook even in daylight. The women at the well stared too long. People went quiet when I walked past. I started wondering if they knew. I started wondering if I was hearing things at all, or if my mind was finally breaking apart. Lucian noticed. One evening, as the sun bled red behind the trees, he touched my face and said, "You are not losing yourself." I wanted so badly to believe him. Then I saw the bite marks on his neck, small, hidden under his collar, but I saw them. He told me it was just a branch scratch. He smiled too fast. He wouldn't meet my eyes. That night, I locked myself in the cellar before the moon rose, but I couldn't stop thinking about his lie. My chest felt tight. My teeth ached. The wolf inside me paced restlessly. I pressed my ear to the door and heard footsteps above me. Slow, careful, then a second set of steps. 2 men. I smelled Lucian and Marek. "Keep her inside," Marek whispered. My blood turned cold. Lucian answered, but his voice sounded weak. "This is wrong. You said you wanted her free of the curse." Marek replied, "So do I." A long silence followed. Then came a third voice, smooth, calm, ancient. "You have done well, Dracula." I threw myself against the door so hard the wood cracked. Pain exploded through my shoulder. My spine twisted. The change had already begun. Fur pushed through my skin in burning waves. My jaw stretched. A cry tore from my throat. Half human, half beast. Above me, Lucian shouted, "No! We had a deal." Dracula laughed softly. "Deals are for equals." Then Lucian screamed. I don't remember breaking the door. I remember splinters flying. I remember moonlight flooding the stairs. I remember the thick smell of fresh blood. When I reached the room, Lucian was on the floor, chest open, eyes still alive, but fading fast. Marek stood near the window, shaking, silver knife in his hand. Dracula stood behind him like a shadow, wearing human skin. I rushed forward, but Dracula moved faster than thought. He struck me across the room. My body hit the wall so hard, the stone cracked. I fell to one knee, choking on blood. Marek shouted, "I brought her!" "You promised." Dracula looked at him with something like pity. "I promised relief," he said. "I never promised mercy." Then he sank his teeth into Marek's throat. Marek dropped the knife. His eyes widened in horror as blood ran down his chest. I should have felt satisfaction. I felt nothing. Lucian crawled toward me, leaving red trails on the floor. I shifted back just enough to hold him. He was shaking. His breath came wet and broken. "Ilara," he whispered, "run." But I was done running. Outside, the church bells began ringing 13 times. Dracula was coming for the rest of us. The fight that followed was not a battle. It was a slaughter. I tore through Dracula's creatures with pure fury. Blood sprayed across the snow. Wolves howled from the forest as if answering my pain. But Dracula walked calmly through the chaos, untouched, watching me with cold amusement. Then he looked at Lucian and smiled. "You still protect the ones who fear you." He caught Lucian by the throat and slammed him into the church doors. The entire building shook. Lucian looked at me one last time, eyes full of regret and love. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Dracula snapped his neck with one hand. Everything went silent. The fire, the screams, even the wind. I stared at Lucian lying motionless in the snow. The man I loved. The man who had betrayed me. Gone. Something deep inside me finally shattered. The wolf part of me stopped fighting against the human part. They became one. My body transformed into something terrible. My jaw stretched wider. Black veins spread across my fur, while moonlight pulsed from my eyes like living fire. Even Dracula stepped back. For the first time, he looked afraid. I attacked with everything I had left. I tore into him again and again. The ground shook. Buildings crumbled as I hunted him through the burning village. Finally, I pinned him beside the frozen river. Dracula laughed weakly through broken teeth. "You are no longer human." I looked at my reflection in the ice. He was right. The woman I used to be had disappeared. Only the beast remained. With one final roar, I dragged Dracula under the frozen water. The ice cracked open. Darkness swallowed us both. By morning, Black Hollow was silent. The survivors found blood across the snow, but no bodies beneath the river. I was gone. Some say I died killing Dracula. Others believe I still walk the forest during full moons, watching from the trees, hunting anyone who carries betrayal in their heart. But the villagers never forgot one painful truth. Monsters are dangerous. Yet betrayal creates something far worse. And sometimes the deepest wounds come from the people we trust most. If you ever hear a wolf cry under the full moon, listen carefully. It might not be hunting. It might just be mourning the person it once loved.